Yes. You're in for a treat. Okay.
So,
Thank you. Please.
David, I'll take the whiteboard, please.
So my goal today is not to do a teaching, is not to sell materials. It's to change our culture, to change our friends who are needy. Your life is needy. Everything you're going to hear me talk about are decades of marriage, of personal struggle, marriage counseling, Hebrew study. I grew up in a church that said they believed every word of the Bible. But here's what I figured out. They didn't. Do you know why? If you believed that in your backyard there was gold, and you were needing desperately money, and you were not out digging up the backyard, you don't believe there's gold there, do you? But I grew up hearing that, and I believed it. And so when I had needs, I went to dig into the scriptures. What's the original language say? What's it mean? What's the context? How's it used throughout scripture? And the more that we ran into trouble, my wife and I were wonderful believers as singles. The moment we got married, we hit a brick wall. And we needed help. In fact, that first year of marriage, I went to 3 spiritual leaders in my life. And I said, what do I do? And they all 3, and I figured out later, they all must have talked to each other, gave me the same advice. Do you know what the advice was? Frank, your problem is you don't have Sally under control. Now, when I heard that, I knew they were wrong. I didn't know how. I didn't know what I mean, obviously I was coming for help. I didn't know what to do, but I knew there was wrong. So when she came a year or 2 later and said, Frank, we need to go to counseling, I thought, I already know what they're going to say, and it's not good. That desperate need drove me to Scripture, drove me to Hebrew, drove me to counseling, drove me then eventually when we started changing, people started knocking on our door and we got more training and more counseling. And decades later, it's brought me here. Now we are at a crucial time in our culture. We're either going to go over a cliff or have a harvest. And the difference is, do we have the tools? There's probably 10, 20, 30% of our culture that knows the precepts, living the precepts imperfectly, but cannot help others with the precepts. What you know how to live, you don't know how to teach. Well, I've spent decades learning how to teach. I have the tools that I can give you, and if you have people around you that desperately need it, then I want you to take these materials and first live it. Because you'll learn something extra that way. If you desperately need it, I want you to take these materials and minister it. Sounds backwards, doesn't it? But I'll guarantee that everybody here in desperate need, if you were to tell a friend what to do, it'd probably be pretty accurate. Wisdom is doing for ourselves what we tell our friends to do. Yes. So sometimes when we need personal wisdom, the best thing to do is start reaching out to others. Help them walk through it. Help them with the precepts, and pretty soon we start living those same precepts. The foolish, put my hand up, it's awfully hard when I'm in trouble to live the wisdom that I know is true. That's when I need people around me who can give me the same truth I would give them if I wasn't the one in pain. So nothing I'm teaching you today is a good concept. These are foundations. I'm teaching today on becoming best friend. Do you know what? Anybody know the Hebrew words for friend? Anybody know any of them? What? Say it loud. Haverit, haver, haverit. What else? Havrot is the Hebrew equivalent of koinonia, when you're partnering together and bound together and woven together. What else? Any other words?
Indeed.
Okay, which goes back to the word dod or David, beloved. Anida dodiva dodili is a word. Dod is a friend. What else? Ohev, you know that word? Love. God was a friend of Abraham. So in English, lover has another meaning. In Hebrew, lover is a deep friend. What else? Rea, neighbor, acquaintance. Ach, brother. Achot, sister. But the best friend is Ish Shlomi, a person of my peace, a person of my completeness. Now it's used in there in a sense of betrayal. King David talks about, and it's applied to Judas later, the Ish Shlomi who betrays. That's how deep that friendship was. But I'm going to talk about the first 3 friendships. In fact, can somebody hand out the books, the manual books? Because there are things, this manual book has enough for a week or 2 in it. And it's designed, so if I could do a 20, 30-hour conference, I would do it. I'm going to squeeze out the juice for you now and give you things that are there. But if you think about it, if you have all the structure, all the truth, everything right, but you don't know how to be best friends, then a congregation, a family, a marriage, a culture is going to fail. If we are half right on structure and doctrine, and believe me, I'm a teacher, I value doctrine. If you're half right on all the other things, but you're best friends, you're going to thrive. Do you see that? You're going to grow too, but you're going to thrive. So we as a culture, sometimes we're so focused on what should be that we don't build the foundation for what makes it work. In pre-marriage counseling, I ask a couple a question. Tell me about your best friends growing up. And as I pull out of them and listen to how they went through and they held together and they held on and they walked through things together, or they got mad and they dropped them. As they describe what kind of best friend and what kind of best friends they found, I would turn to them and say, you've just described your marriage. Without change, this is the marriage you're going to have. What kind of best friend you are, what kind of best friend you can find is going to be your marriage. Does anybody here married more than 5 years? Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
But before marriage, they have the feeling that they're best friends. It's not always very accurate. So if there's one thing I can do to transform a marriage, is to turn people from friendly enemies into best friends. Our culture turns them from friendly enemies into enemies. I want to go friendly enemies to best friends. So the teachings I'm doing today, I'm going to cram in things. There's probably 3/4 of it that'll be left in the book. And the book, even if get it for yourself and then get more to do a group. Because this is not a teaching, this is a harvest. And the hunger is there, the problem is people no longer believe that there's real friendship, that there's real relationship, and that applies not only in marriage and family, but with God. The rest of the things, you've got great pastors to turn to. They will deal with the things that matter, and they do matter. I'm here with foundational relationships. It's half counseling, half Hebrew, half common sense. And common sense always adds up to more than one, doesn't it? We're going to start off on page 14. And you can go back because I'm skimming. It's the skill of becoming a friend. And before I even go there, I'm going to show you 3 kinds of friendship. And I'm going to describe something that happens, especially in America, all too often with all too disastrous results. So any of you who have seen me teach before knows that the Hebrew letters were originally pictures and sounds. And you can take a word and you can see the picture. The first word for friend is re'ah. It is the head of a person and an eye. The person you see. Simple concept. Neighbor, acquaintance, friend. A man of many friends must show himself friendly. This same 2 letters are used in 3 conflicting words, which is common in Hebrew. Evil, friend, shepherd. And they're all watchers. The man of the eye, the stalker, is evil. The watcher, the protector, is the shepherd. The friend, the neighbor, is the one you like seeing, you spend time with, you like them. The skill of this kind of friend is the first friendship. Do you know that 90-some% of people don't know how to reach out and can make that connect? They're hungry for it. How many here are hungry for somebody to see you, to like you? How many here are skilled at doing that for others? But see, it's 10%. And what I've learned is that people who walk away thinking nobody is willing to make the connection, it's because, none of us have the skill. But if you learn to make contact and to like them for just a second or a minute, the time you've got, you're going to be surprised how many people just blossom. That's the first friendship, and it's the most crucial friendship. It's the one we skip because we're not trained. The second friendship, I'm going to just do 3 out of the 7 for right now, is the word for brother, ach, make it feminine, achot, to become sister. It's the first or the strong fence, the aleph of the het, the first fence. These are the protectors. A brother is born for adversity. In Hebrew, like in English, brother can be a family member or a close friend. And you can tell who your real brothers and sisters are because they protect you. Gossip only exists when there are no brothers and sisters. Do you see that?
Yes.
The third friend we've already heard, haver, haveret. Haver comes from the word hav, is the word for bosom. Now let me explain it to you, because English is a little funny with this word. The bosom is where you held a child. Abraham's bosom. It's the place of embracing, the place of warmth. And a bosom person is the comrade, the partner, the friend, the one woven together. The one that you have fellowship with. 2 fishermen working together with a net, they were haver. And everybody in America is hungry, especially young people not married, they're hungry for that intimate connection of weaving their hearts and souls together. They're hungry for haver. But here's the danger. If you're over 12 or 15 years old, you've already experienced this multiple times. How many people have entered into a relationship dreaming you can share your heart, soul, dreams, hopes, fears, shames with this person, only to have them not having time for you, not liking you, or not protecting you. That woven together partnership where your heart and soul is there, without the first 2, will destroy you. Every time. Can I get an amen?
Yes. Amen.
Can I get an oh my and an ouch? Yeah. But, and here's the distinguishing thing. I'm really siphoning the best juice out of this one for you. Ministry comes before friendship. In ministry, I can like somebody, I can give them my full attention for a second, a minute, an hour. I can protect them. You will never hear me talk about anybody I've ever counseled. I protect. And that means people come to me for counsel, know they can share. They'd be a fool to share if they didn't know I could protect, wouldn't they? And I can open my heart and soul up in ministry. But when it comes to relationship, I only open my heart and soul on that level with somebody who gives me the first two. Do you see that? And half of marriage sometimes can be ministry. But I need to know the difference. Ministry is when I've got the heart and the love and the truth of God flowing through me, one way, no cost to somebody else. Relationship is when that's still true, but what they're giving back and I give back becomes a woven together of trust and connection and friendship. And there are times in marriage for both husband and wife, it's going to be pure ministry, and times it'll be relationship. And if the relationship's broken, go to the ministry, but you should always be coming back to building that relationship, to becoming best friends. But if they cannot trust you, if you don't like them, if you don't connect with them, if you don't see them, if you don't protect them, they're a fool to open their heart to you. Now, I'm going to shift to another concept for a second. 90% of life is memory. And it changes your entire life. So one thing I'll tell husbands when they come home, if they come home before the wife, and they come home and they pull up in the driveway, she hears the car, and he's on the cell phone, and he's there for 15, 20, 30 more minutes, I'll say, don't do that. Because here's what happens when you make a memory that way. You pull up, she hears you, she's excited, anticipation's there, and then you don't come. She's not important. And after 5 times of that in a row, she hears the car pull up, and without knowing why, she's mad. I say, if you need to make the phone call, great, make it. Stop a block away. But when she hears that car pull up, she needs to have the memory of what you do now is you come in. By the way, when's the biblical Hebrew day begin? Anybody know? Sundown. The American day starts when we go to work, ends when we come home, and we come home and crash. The Hebrew day starts when you come home to your family. And you begin a new day. You know how that changes people? You come home to start the day. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Don't start the day angry. Forget about finishing. Don't start it. And so what happens here is memory changes anticipation. So you pull up, the car pulls in, you come in, and you see her, you like her. 5 times later, she hears the car pull up, and you've done this. You've already won 3/4 of the relationship battle, haven't you? Memory becomes anticipation, which changes the event. Most marriage fights I hear, it's memory with bad anticipation. They start to say one sentence, you've heard it 100 times, you cut them off, it changes the fight. They're not thinking I'm going to be heard and understood and connected. They're thinking, It's memory that changes that, which is why the Bible is so clear on remember. What's it take to remember? Advertising in Hollywood has it down. We don't. Music, see, hear, taste, touch, smell. These are things that you can change memory. If you change memory, you change life. There's 50 to 100 memories that define your childhood and your marriage. Did you know that? You can think of many more memories, but they're not hovering there, defining it. And if there's a lot of bad memories, you want to hear the really great news? Every time you bring in a great memory, you get rid of a bad one. We only handle 50 to 100. And I've seen this in marriage counseling many times where I start off in early on stages saying, tell me about the good things in your marriage, and there aren't any. A year or two later, they're telling me all the ones going all the way back to whenever. Good memories change everything. In friendship, Queen Victoria had, I think, 5 or 7 prime ministers. 2 of them were famous. Disraeli and whoever. And she would say, she had a famous statement that when she was with so-and-so, she felt she was in the presence of the most brilliant man in the world. But when she was with Disraeli, she felt that she was the most wonderful woman in the world. So tell me, which one was a better relationship? You want to know the perfect date? The perfect date is when you make the other person feel they are wonderful. You make them feel that you're wonderful, you've lost it. Now, if they don't know how to make you feel that you're wonderful, there's a problem. Do you catch that? A bad marriage is when both people don't make each other feel that they're not wonderful. A good marriage is when one person's an adult and mature and gets grace from God and can give ministry. A great marriage is when both do. A great marriage can shift to a bad marriage or to a good marriage, but not to a bad marriage if one person doesn't go into the mud, the other one person helps them out. But if you don't have the foundational skills of being a friend, you're heading for a bad marriage. Do you see that? And most of the people in their 20s and 30s today are not getting married. You know why? They don't see good marriages. Their memories of their parents' marriage and looking around them are not memories that bring anticipation and bring foundations for a relationship. They don't know how to be best friends. You guys see what I'm saying? But again, I don't care where you're at. I'm going to give you some simple things that can change in small relationships that you can become big relationships. If I can show you a few things of how to become best friends, you'll find half to 90% of the problems disappear. Because best friends can go through hard times and get closer. Hard times are only hard times with best friends. But most people in America, we don't know how to even be friends. But all of us are hungry for friends. So there's an odd thing in marriage where men want respect, women want to be loved. You've all heard that. But what happens when we get hurt is men quit loving, women quit respecting. But what we're not realizing is that I can talk to a man with and without respect and say the same thing and get 2 opposite results. If you listen to men, healthy men function when a boss is going to talk to an employee that's also a friend. If he does it right, he'll give him value and then problem. He'll say, you know what, Sam, you are a great man, a godly man, a great father, hard worker, but boy, you blew this one. And once he feels that respect, he can hear the problem without defending. So when women don't respect a man, they throw away their greatest power to get into his heart. Her greatest power. When men don't love a woman, they throw away their greatest power. When a woman doesn't feel loved, the walls go up. When she feels loved, she will even hear a problem. That's a problem, not a rejection. So when we don't love or respect, we throw away our power. Isn't that interesting? And then we're mad because we're telling them how terrible they are and they won't hear us. Well, no, we're not telling them how wrong they are. We're telling them how worthless they are. You can tell somebody that you are awesome and valuable and wonderful and too good to leave in the gutter, and they will hear that they're worth it and they will open their heart. Or you can tell them you're worthless. And even if you're right in what you tell me, I can't hear you. Because I can't accept I'm worthless. That's a different statement than I'm wrong, isn't it? Real friends let each other know you're valuable. Maybe wrong. But you give me a friend who will tell me I'm valuable and they're there for me and they protect me and they like me and they partner with me. They tell me I'm wrong. I'm open. Think about who you've heard that you open your heart to and you let them talk to you as they tell you you're wrong. One thing I've learned in counseling, people come back to me week after week after week. I give them respect. I put her in the circle and give her a relationship. And I tell them they're wrong and they like me. They like me. And they come back for more. Being wrong is not the problem. Being trusted so their heart and their soul is safe and valued is everything. That's what we as a culture have lost. Any questions on this? We're a small enough group that, and this is not focused on teaching, but foundations for you. I want all of you. In fact, if you're not all using these 3 friendships this next week, I'll hunt you down.
Are you coming back?
We'll make some. My goal in the next 10 years is to take everything I've learned the hard way and to make them the tools so that you guys, uncles, aunts, grandmas, grandpas, really what I'm doing 2 generations ago wasn't needed. Because uncle, aunts, grandmas, grandpas, friends, neighbors taught it. But in our culture, we've lost it. I just want to give you back the tools to do it again. And in the decades, I've watched people I watch when their eyes get glazed over, I watch when they get it. I've just refined a few tools. But many of you are going to hear things, you say, I knew that, but I've never been able to say it. And that's the difference. There's a skill to being a friend. The Hebrew word for wisdom, hokmah, is really the word for skill. The Greek way of thinking is wisdom is educational. The Hebrew way, it's the weavers and the goldsmiths that were wise. There comes a point where you get a cook. So there are people who can cook, and then there are chefs, and there are master chefs, and there are virtuosos. A virtuoso can come into a kitchen full of cooks and have them all cook together like master chefs. Do you see that? That's the wisdom of Hebrew. That's what wisdom is. So there's knowledge and there's skill. And what I want you, this is why I'm telling you, if you're hurting, and these things you sit there and say, boy, I'm in trouble, I don't know what to do, then minister. Skill comes both with doing and helping. And ministry should come before the problem with many marriages and friendships, marriages, community, all that works in, is I'm going to give you my favorite Southern expression that I use in counseling. Men and women, communities, families often become 2 ticks, no dog. You like that? And the analogy breaks down very quickly after that, but because God's not a dog, right? But he's where we get, if you come in and you're sitting at the table and you're trying to take each other's food, you're going to both starve. If you come in with your arms full of what God has given, you have a banquet and a feast. If you're not bringing in, which is primary, and you're just trying to take, we're in trouble. But I'm not talking about giving to abusers. I'm not talking about giving to users. Remember, the third friendship I only give in relationship to somebody who gives me the first 2. I can minister to anybody, but I recognize the difference in relationship and friendship. I can encourage those who don't do these first 2. I can teach them how to and let them taste it. The truth is, they want it. Even dogs that are aggressive and mad, they're not usually that way because they want to be. It's survival. Make them safe. Become one they trust. Watch the change. You want to see a culture transformed? Start here. And these are the things you can look people in the eye, like them. You don't have to commit your entire life to them, but when you're talking to them, like them. Hear them, see them, protect them. Hear gossip, step in. Because gossip will destroy safety and destroy relationship and destroy marriages and destroy families and communities. You name it, gossip destroys. That's why God hates it. Any questions on this? Think about yourself, think about people around you. There's a lot in this book I'm not going to touch. I'm really going to recommend that you go through it individually or in a small group and pull out things, because there's a lot of things in here that decades of counseling in Hebrew have taught me. What the counseling I got when I tried looking for help, it was 3/4 Greek and 3/4 disaster. Good-hearted people, just they were wrong. And sometimes it's because the problem often with the English Bible, if you have a problem with the English Bible, it's always the English and never the Bible. If you don't go back to what the word really means, you end up 90 degrees off of what it's saying. English words often do not mean the same thing that the Hebrew means. Again, any questions? I can only help the questions if they're asked. Listen, see people, spend time, care. That's the first friendship. Try it. You'll be surprised how many, some of the people will back off because they're not safe. Some people will latch on because they're desperate. But we're all hungry. I've just given you, simplified, some of the greatest power you can ever have. Do you know why politicians do so well? Make people think they like them. I'm not going to say if they're safe or not. But you know why con men do so well? They make people believe this. It's not true, but they use it. That's how common human nature is. If the con men can use it, for what's fake, why can't we use it for what's real? So the next one, chapter 30, how many know what Dainu means? You can sing the song, can't you? What's it mean? It would have been enough. And here's the biblical precept that's taught all the way through. God, if you'd done this, Dainu! By the way, do you mind if I divert for a second? Go back to a song on worship or thing on praise. So what's the Hebrew word for praise? Okay, you got halal as in hallelujah, things like that. But let's say halal. Do you know where halal comes from? It's an onomatopoeia. An onomatopoeia doesn't sound like it is what comes from the sound that becomes a word. Buzz, hum, or onomatopoeias. How many have ever heard the Middle Eastern, especially women, do the oh, la, 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 la? That became halal. Now let me take it down through history to what our English word is. Did you know we have the word that comes straight from halal in English? So it went from the Syriac and Hebrew into Arabic into Spanish, into Spanish to English. Have you ever watched a big soccer game and they stand up when they see something awesome and go, "Ole"? That's halal. That's the biblical meaning behind halal. It's when it's this reaction out of awe and wonder and praise. Can you see that in God and not stand and shout? It changes when we say hallelujah, it changes what that means. So Dainu is it sufficient, enough, it would have been enough, sufficient for us. And we skip through the friendships. We start this one and just get us started and do this one and just get us started and skip to this one and skip to the next ones. We try to have the fruit without the tree. And the intimacy, the connection is the fruit of a healthy tree. You don't have to worry about the fruit. You worry about the tree. So if you are sufficient, and I get people trying to date, I teach them, become a friend, like people, spend time with people, be a neighbor, be an acquaintance. That's enough. Don't go from there, get 10% of that and go to the next one. Make that strong and wide. And then add on top of that. So instead of having real narrow, we go 10%, 10%, and try to go 90%. Well, guess what happens? It breaks. Go 90%, 80%, 70%. And keep building, because I'm not going 100% because there's always more to grow. But make the first friendship enough. Make the second friendship of being a brother and a protector enough. I'm not trying to go past it, I'm trying to build it. And if we never go beyond that first one or the second two, never go beyond it, I can have a great friendship. But if those first two are solid and strong and broad and secure, the third one will just come from where it comes. And then the rest will come out of that next one. So Dainu is a simple biblical precept of building where we are, not trying to go past where we are to something that hasn't come yet. Haver, knit together. We've already talked about that. That's a crucial concept, being woven, knit together. That's what koinonia comes from, haverot comes from. This is when things become really good friends. But you can't get there again without the first two. How many times, I can't even count the times in my life when I've been burned because I didn't understand the first two. But again, in ministry, which all of us should do with nothing expected back at all. The payoff comes from walking with the Lord, not the rest. Page 51, chapter 6. And I'm skimming. We'll come back later. One of the things about Hebrew teaching is often they start off with conclusions and then come back and give the points. I'm kind of putting things together in the beginning for you now so we can have the conclusion, and we'll come back and do some crucial things on the points. And that's why in the 10 Commandments, the first commandment is actually the conclusion. I am the Lord your God. The rest are the points that go back to that always. It's the beginning, it's the end, it's the Hebrew form of teaching. Greek form of teaching is often point, 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 conclusion. Hebrew is often conclusion, point, point, point. So what we're doing at this session is trying to walk you through to conclusions. And I've already told you the conclusion. The person of my wholeness, the person of my peace. That's what we're after. But we're now coming to the Hebrew concept mashal. And you hear it in the Hebrew word mishlei, Proverbs. It is when things are compared, contrasted, and together you can understand them, judge them, rule them, succeed. It's got a positive and a negative side. The positive is the book of Proverbs. By comparing, contrasting, we come to understanding and wisdom. We can succeed in life. The negative is used when people manipulate and control. But the concept, so here's 2 verses, and you all probably heard them. Answer a fool according to his folly. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you become like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he become wise. In Greek form of thinking, they conflict, right? They can't both be right. In Hebrew form of thinking, they combine together to make a whole. An adult can weave between the two and not violate either one. Do you see that? When often in Hebrew, the most common form of teaching in Hebrew is called parallelism, which is the same thing I'm teaching right now. You'll see 2 things put side by side, compared, contrasted to make the complete teaching. That's why I think God made men and women. That together we reveal a fuller image of the image of God. It's why you will find, why you hear mercy and truth. You'll often hear 2 heavy things in Scripture put together. Grace and peace. If you have mercy and justice, if you have justice without mercy, it's not God's justice. Mercy without justice, it's not God's mercy. You see that? So this putting things together, combining them, is a crucial thing when it comes to friendships and relationships and understanding and building on things. It works together. I don't think God built men and women. I think in fact, when Adam was not good that Adam was alone, the word alone is bod, not bad, but bod. And that word bod is used for a part of something. The 2 poles that carried the Ark of the Covenant, that's the majority of the time that word is used in the Bible. They were 2 parts, 2 poles, and the thing is, men and women were created to be the image of God together. Imagine trying to carry the Ark of the Covenant with 1 pole. What happens? You can't. You're going to have to try to hold it, and at that point, you're dead, right? But 2 poles that are matched for each other work. And there are a lot of biblical precepts, you're going to hear them as I'm going through here, that are meant to work together. Page 59, chapter 7. The friend called love, Ohev. Now, the word picture for love is the Father revealed. You want to know who somebody's father is? Look at what they love, good or bad. You want to change what you love? Change your father. Simple precept. What did Yeshua say to the Pharisees? Who was their father? Abraham? No. What they treasured, what they loved, what they acted on, revealed their father. And some of us have not had good fathers. Doesn't mean, but the benefit in Hebrew is the father is the one who raised you, your mentor, the one you turn to for a lot of God. There's more than one father to fill in the gaps. But if you don't like what you're loving, find a father who's good in that area. The word av, father, the word ev, to springtime, green, growth. They're connected. A father is the one that helps you flourish like springtime. He's the one who starts something, who makes it help it grow. Maybe we'll deal with mother if we have time later. That's just as powerful. Women, by the way, are called fathers. Abigail is the father of joy. She's the source of joy. So it's most the masculine terms, this is where English we get stuck. Masculine terms are inclusive. Fathers include women. Mothers exclude men. You see that? God is, when He's our Father, He's not a male. We're not in His image. We're in His image. He's not in our image. So if you call Him mother, it's excluding. If you call Him Father, it's including. So if you'll notice in the Hebrew Scriptures, many times it'll say all the men of so and so, and then it repeats a funny phrase, all the males. Well, because if they didn't say all the males, it would have been all the people. Okay? And same thing with, so Hebrew is inclusive. If you've got 100 people there, 99 women and 1 man, you use the masculine. If you got 100 women, use the feminine. Which means women, the female is exclusive. But a friend called love, the Father revealed. And this is when you take this friendship of partnering, and there's a crucial step that has to come to make it grow powerful. So if I become in business with you, a partner, so in one small part of our life, we are partners, we're haver. And I say to you, all that I have is yours. That's what this friendship is. And you say, yeah, but it's not going both ways. What's going to happen to the partnership? When you have that haver, then this is the love. So you put all that I have in this area is yours. That makes a partnership thrive. But you don't do that kind of love until you have haver. Do you see that? You cannot build these friendships without the foundations below them. And in America, we try to give all that we have when there's no real haver. There may be a feeling, but no reality. One of the ways, and so the same thing, you can have haver, but they're not willing to pay more, then you just say no. It's small, it's nice, it's just not going to become powerful. Say no. I will enjoy what is. I'm not going to put more weight. One of the problems in marriage is that how safe and valued you are is a bridge over a chasm. So if I take 1,000 pounds of pure truth, necessary truth, and I put it on a bridge where Sally only feels 200 pounds of safety and value, put 1,000 pounds of truth on that bridge, what's going to happen to it? I'm just throwing it off the edge. More important than my necessary truth is the bridge. And so the same thing's here too. We give things when there's no bridge that'll carry them. But guess what? That's not a problem. Just step back. I tell people, if in counseling, if you spent the last 5 years trying to fix things and you've cycled, well, if we spend 6 months and don't fix them, you're no worse off. Let's just spend 6 months and build the bridge. So at the end of 6 months, you can drive a semi across it. And they're safe and they're valued and they're loved. And it's not a problem. The problem is not the truth. The problem is safety and value. Do you see that? So a friend called love, when I read 1 Corinthians 13, I don't read things that I have to do to love. If I get my book on honor, I read things that because I honor, I automatically love. So I can ask myself, what am I patient with? That's what I love. What do I do not keep a track of things wrong with? That's what I love. I don't try to make myself do them. I use it to evaluate myself. What do I really love? And if I'm missing love where I need it, I need a new father. I don't need willpower. I don't need new habits. I need a new father. Page 67. Now, and we're skimming, we'll come back after we eat. Conquering life together. Adam and Eve were created not for master-servant, but for allies who conquered together. When she was called Ezer Kenegdo, Ezer is used most of the time for God. God is our Ezer. He's our help. Up until the 1640s in English, help never meant servant. Did you know that? It meant the person who came when you needed help. Ezer comes from Azar, which means to surround and protect. In fact, do you know why help became servant in English? Wicked history. Do you want to hear it? Because of slavery. Because white people did not want to be called servants because black people were servants. So when you saw help wanted signs early on, it was whites only. And in changing that word for a wicked reason, it changed how we read the Bible. We read her as a helpmeet, not the perfect ally who's got his back and helps him conquer life. That is a child and a servant. Men, would you rather have someone who serves you tea at your whim while you fail in life, or somebody who partners with you side by side and helps you succeed and conquer? It's an easy choice, isn't it? That's what God created. Do you know why the enemy attacks that relationship? Because that's the one that was created to conquer, and that meant the enemy was doomed. Think about it. If they were created to conquer and rule together, that included the enemy. He'd be squashed under their feet, a statement of conquering. So the first thing the enemy does is either tries to destroy the man, destroy the woman, destroy the trust, whatever he can do to turn best friends and allies into enemy friends, and into enemies. He does that, 90% of the battle's taken care of. But if we can go back to becoming allies and best friends, everything changes. Now, if you're sitting there hearing this and saying, but it's not what I did, I failed. Do you know how much your hearing has come out of my failure? My desperate need, our desperate need, my ability then to figure out what it was to help others and to help myself. If you hear me being perfect in this, you don't know me. If you hear me saying God's ways work even when I get stuck, now you're hearing it. This is truth beyond me. If you're hurting and stuck, and you have people around you hurting and stuck, this is things you can give, and your hurt only makes you more capable of helping. There are times I'll do conferences, I do an honor. I grew up with a father that loved his fist and his razor strap. I never got a spanking, I got beatings. And I'd get beat for doing A, not B one day, and for doing B, not A the next day. There was no way to get out of a beating when he wanted to do a beating. But you know what that has meant for me in ministry? When I turn to people who've been abused, and I can open up my heart and talk about those times, I have a bridge. I know what it's like. And I used to sit there as a young kid, 10, 12 years old especially at times, and the way I knew Yeshua, the way I knew Jesus was, he was there. And between God and my dog, I was okay. I got a great pain threshold. After the first 100 beatings, the next 1,000 I could handle. You know, I can deal with pain. But God was there. Do you hear this? So my problems become a strength. Your problems give you the understanding and the compassion to minister. Knowledge without understanding is trouble. You have the understanding, I'm going to give you a little bit of knowledge. That's all you need. You've got 90% of what you need, I'll give you 10%. If people know you and trust you, if I came in and counseled, 6 months later, they trust me completely. If they trust you completely, look how much farther ahead you are than I just give you a few things you can help. So your problems can become a foundation for effective ministry. If you're going to go into the desert, the way I put it, don't waste the desert. Find the presence of God. Page 79. I'm going to just touch on this one for a second. Ish Shlomi, my best friend. The person, the man, women included, of my shalom. Now, shalom is to be whole and complete, physically, financially, spiritually, relationally. The person that completes me, makes me whole, is my Ish Shlomi. This is my goal in life, is to become Ish Shlomi. It's my desire, and I'll tell you the difference, to have Ish Shlomis in my life. You know the differences between goal and desire? Desire is what I want, a goal is what I control. It is my desire to have Sally love me. It is my goal to love her. In our culture, we flip the two. We make it our goal for them to love me, my desire to love them. When I feel like it, I'll love them. But they better love me, or else. No. Go back to what it is. What I control is my goal. Now, it doesn't mean that I allow abuse. I have boundaries, biblical right boundaries. And let me just add one thing before I go on so people don't hear this wrong. For many women, because they are so relational, they don't understand the difference between a boundary and a wall. And a boundary is what we put around the two of us. We don't say, we don't do, we protect. It's protection. So inside the boundary, we're safe. Nothing comes inside that doesn't give us safety. But if you don't have boundaries, you end up getting so hurt. The only way you get safety is to put up a wall. A wall separates the two, a boundary protects the two. So a cycle I'll see with women and men, but women is a good example, is that they will allow things to happen in their life, wanting relationship and connection, they won't put up the right boundaries. They get so hurt, they put up a wall. They feel so disconnected, they drop the wall for a relationship, but no boundary. And you see the cycle go on, don't you? There are biblical boundaries. Boundaries make deep relationship possible. They don't separate people, they connect them. They're safe inside. And the stronger these foundations grow, the bigger the boundaries can go. But you have to start off with really small boundaries to start with. Whatever can legitimately be protection and safe. I got 5 minutes before we're going to break. Any questions? So the person you see that you like, you spend time with, you enjoy. This first, the strong fence, this is the neighbor, acquaintance, friend, Rhea. Ach is the brother. This first are the strong fence. Haver is the comrade, the partner, the one knitted together. The bosom person, which bosom friend is a very close concept in English. But that bosom friend, that comrade, partner, share with, that's dependent on the first two. That's the fruit. It happens naturally. You don't have to make it happen. It happens. Take care of the tree, the fruit comes. Same thing with dodi, my beloved. That word is used to, it's the word, well, we'll talk about that later, what the pressure is. But the concept is, it's the fruit. If you want to find a beloved relationship, build the tree. Don't worry about the fruit, it comes. It's very easy to get the fruit with a healthy tree. You see that? But most of us are out there trying to staple up apples and oranges onto trees. And it looks good for the moment. It's just pretend. Two more questions, or one or two more questions. Yes?
I just wanted to make sure that I got this right. I'm not sure I wrote it down right. More important than the bridge is the necessary truth?
No, more important than the necessary truth is the bridge. The reason is 1,000 pounds of truth, that's crucial truth, on a 200-pound bridge, you're wasting your effort. So I don't want you to forget the truth. It needs to be dealt with, but the bridge has to come first.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I was hoping that you might be able to give a specific or isolated example in order to explain how to properly communicate when a boundary is needed.
How to properly what?
Properly communicate when a boundary is needed in a relationship.
Let's bring that up after we come back together, because that's more than a 1-minute answer. But part of it is, if these aren't there, the liking, the protecting, communication means nothing. People go into survival mode, all of us do, when we feel our value, our worth is challenged. So, I used to, as a counselor, there are a lot of communication workshops out there. I don't send a couple to a communication workshop that doesn't like each other. They don't need to learn to communicate that any better than they already are.
Right.
I want to get back to honor and foundations, and then they can communicate that better. Communication is usually not our major problem. We're all too accurately communicating hurt, bitterness, problems, frustration. We're good at that. But these friendships will change communication, but there's other things we can do as well to that. One more question. Yes.
If you can, if not after the break, you said you need to get a new father. What
Yeah.
do you mean by that?
One of the things I'll tell young people is to find a couple who've got a great marriage and let them become one. If you walk with the wise, you become wise. So wherever area you're lacking, find somebody, a man or a woman, who's thriving,
Okay.
and replace whatever father you've had in that area with one that knows how to thrive in that area.
Okay.
But I just take what I love as reflecting, good or bad, my father. And my natural father was wonderful in certain areas. He wasn't wonderful in other areas.
Right.
So I don't reject all that he gave me. I cling to what he gave me that was accurate and effective and good. But one of the benefits of being an adult especially is I can rebuild the foundations. I can restore the foundations that were never given. One precept, and then I'll say just a few things about materials and we'll go. What you've never been given, you have to become. So I was never given honor growing up. I had to become a man that understood honor by giving it to even before I could even receive it from God. Do you see that? If I've never been given it, I don't know what it's like. God can honor me, He can love me. I don't know. He's doing it. It's just hitting a blank spot in me. It wasn't until I started giving the love and honor to others and saw them through God's eyes and saw their value, period, that God could speak to my heart and say, Frank, this is how I love you. And mine's a drop to His ocean, but it's a different kind. So part of what I want you to do here in the becoming best friends is not to walk out saying, yeah, I need best friends. It's saying, what I've never been given, I need to become. Because if they're wise and you come and try to take from them without being a friend, if they understand friendship, they won't go there. Will they? I don't want you to go there. But the first step is ministry, and then see what comes back. And sometimes all you'll keep doing is ministry. But you know it's ministry, and you're fine because God's grace is going through you. But when it comes back, it's harvest. So quickly for materials, make sure you've got a book. You can take anything you want to study today. I want you to. Fill out things. I don't want you to wait to have to pay. There's a deal that if you bought the book, I'm not sure how the deals turned out, but if the book is, and buy some more, do a small group, give it to friends. One of the benefit of the holy days, the holidays are really holy days. This is the time when people are open to be given gifts and make memories. This is the time you give things, look them in the eye, like them, bless them, and in half a year or 2 years, they may desperately need it. And there are people you know that are going to need this book in their life. Do a small group with a book. I promised my wife, it's been a hard year, pray for us. I don't want people just to give. I want to give tools. And when we come back, we'll talk about materials. I'll show you what we've got to make it interesting. I trust God to do a miracle financially for us. I'm not dependent on you, but I've done my job to make it so it's something that you can use. But these, if you take these home and put them on a shelf and never read them, don't even buy them. If you're going to take them, use them, teach with them, help them, minister, apply them, they're tools. A tool is worthless, never being used. It is powerful, properly used. One last 30-second question, and we're done. Yes?
Are these principles applicable to parents and children?
You think, sorry, principles?
With parents and their children?
Yeah. These will apply, and when we come back, ask me about individuation with teenagers. But these friendships apply if children see with a husband and a wife, a mother, father, as best friends, you've taught them things you will never believe. If children see marriage between friendly enemies, you've taught them. One of the questions I do in pre-marriage counseling, they'll say, they come in, they say, we're going to make it. And I say, well, why do you think you're going to make it? And they say, well, because we're in love. And I say, well, 50% of good people have divorces. What makes you different than the, oh, we're in love. Well, look around. Tell me how many great marriages you see. And they struggle to think of any. And again, these people got married in love. What makes you any different than them? Would you like to know how to make it work? God made marriage to work.
Yes.
We have to destroy things to make it not work. Do you hear that? Marriage is natural. It's made to work. It's what destroys it you have to question. Men come to me and say, my wife is no longer likes me or wants me. And I say, oh yeah, you don't understand. Women want intimacy more than men. And they look at me. I say, yeah, let me tell you, let me prove my point. How many women's movies and books end up with intimacy in the end? A man's movie, all we need to do is kill somebody. So if every woman's heart is for deep, powerful intimacy, the question is not, does she want intimacy? The question is, what is killing it? Amen? Oh my, oh ouch. God bless, shalom.